At its strongest, social justice is about the fair recognition of society so that all people can live with dignity. It cannot wait for stability. And these are some of the words of one of the United Kingdom's most distinguished public servants and a former United Nations humanitarian chief, Baroness Valerie Amos. She delivered the 7th annual Social Justice Lecture, coinciding with the World Day of Social Justice. The lecture was in collaboration with the University of Stellenbosch under the theme Illusions of Stability, delivering social justice in a period of polarisation and global instability, and was held at the Baxter Theatre Centre in Rondebosch in Cape Town. To talk about the significance of this day, the lecture itself is former public protector and Stellenbosch University Social Justice Chair, Professor Thuli Madonsela, joins us now. Thank you so much for your time, Prof. So let's start with the significance of this day. I mean, World Day of Social Justice. Just why does this day matter, especially when we look at the global landscape with the deepening inequalities, instability, and many other social ills that we face?
Thank you, Mpolisi. Good evening to listeners and viewers. The International Day of Social Justice is an important day which has been so since 2009. The idea being to broaden understanding of the concept of social justice, commitment towards advancing social justice, reflecting on how much have we achieved as humanity since 1919, when the League of Nations adopted the whole idea as an antidote to war and instability, and of course to recommit ourselves to do better.
Yes, and you know, as we have this chat, we also reflect on the work that Baroness Amos has done. Quite extensive, I must add, Prof. I mean, having worked in some of the world's most fragile contexts, just how does her global experience sharpen the urgency of the social justice argument? And do international institutions still have authority and political will to drive social justice in an increasingly polarized world?
Baroness Amos, who delivered a seminal lecture on social justice, brings two strands to the understanding and advancement of social justice. Her personal work, which she's been involved in the UK for many years, since I've known her, having met her in the 90s when we were doing the Employment Equity Act. The view from the top, which she gathered when she worked in the United Nations and could see what's happening across the world and the instability that's happening across the world when there's an illusion of stability. And of course, she brings with herself the work she's doing as an academic. She's the master of Oxford College in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and when we look at some of the sentiments as well as the causes that she's championed, you know, some of those causes closest and dearest to her heart, you know, we tend to reflect a lot, but also when we look at the work that is being done in the various spheres of our society, let's talk about that and the need just to bring social justice closer to us.
Fantastic. Firstly, the Baroness's approach was that there's an illusion of stability. What appears to be stability is not really stability. It is something that we fool ourselves through public narrative. We use the media and all channels of propaganda to fool ourselves into believing that we are in a stable and peaceful world. And the reason we're not in a stable and peaceful world is because injustice and stability cannot coexist. But she also warned us that we cannot wait for justice before we can achieve social justice, or rather we cannot wait for stability before we can achieve social justice. We cannot wait for economic growth before we can achieve social justice. And this comes from the work she's done in the UK, in the country, in the push for equal opportunities in the country itself, but also having been in charge of UK's global development wing and also, as you've indicated, in the United Nations. The key areas where there is poor progress in advancing social justice are education. As you know, this country becomes very unstable or visibly unstable at the beginning of the year as students fight for staying at university when they're not able to stay because they're being kicked out because they owe fees for reasons that are not their fault, because they're young people, they depend on grown-ups to make sure that those resources are mobilized. They lack accommodation, they lack food. She also spoke about health being an area where there's inequitable distribution of opportunities for good health, both in terms of services and also in terms of being able to eat well and have access to the right medications. And thirdly, so it was education, it was health, and then just economies. Our economies are not inclusive enough. What is produced collectively tends to go to the top. You know, social justice has always been a distributive concept. And since 1843, it was about making sure that what is collectively produced since industrialization was distributed equitably. And at that stage, it was just a complaint that those at the top should not take 10 or 20 times more than those who are actually producing wealth. But today, we're talking about those at the top getting 1 million times more than those at the bottom of the scale. And as a result, the world has become extremely unstable. And we think we can cheat ourselves into feeling secure through using the media and through using force. But that's just buying time. And at the end of the day, we are sitting in an ongoing specter of a third world war and other forms of instability.
All right, Thomas, thank you so much for your time and insights on the program today. That's the former public protector in Stellenbosch University, Social Justice Chair, Professor Thuli Madonsela, joining us there on the video link. Thanks so much for that.